Hello and welcome to another episode of Mike and Dave's Hi-Fi Riff. I'm Mike Evans.
And I'm David Price.
And David, today we're going to be talking about the
Mellow Acoustics FrontRo loudspeaker.
I don't think too many people will be very familiar with this product, but it's actually a very, very interesting loudspeaker, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's a very special speaker for one reason at least and one reason only. It's because you like it, Mike. Because you only like about 5 speakers in the world, and most of those are made by Linn, aren't they?
Well, yes, at least 3 of them. Yeah, quite.
So you can almost count them on. I can actually tell you how many speakers you like. So
you probably could.
Linn Isobaric,
yes.
you've got them.
Got those.
Linn Sarah, you've got those. Linn Can,
got those.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Of course you have. And then the ATC SEM40.
ATCs are really good,
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
We've got them in this room at the moment.
We've got them in the room at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, and I've got to say, I've had a bit of a soft spot for the Mission 770s as well recently because they've been in my listening room as my main speakers for about 3 or 4 weeks now, and I've really enjoyed those too. So maybe I'm diversifying a bit.
Well, yes, I mean, maybe I was wrong when I said 6. Maybe it's 7.
But you see,
yes.
but what you also may have forgotten is that one of my favourite pairs of speakers of all time, which I owned, with the original quad electrostatics.
Right, I remember that actually. Didn't you have a pair?
I did. I had a pair in black with an Exposure 10 amplifier. No, I had 2 amps. I had a Mist TMA3, which we reviewed, and also an Exposure 10, which we must try and get hold of to review as well. And the electrostatics were amazing, absolutely brilliant. With one massive caveat, 2 massive caveats. One, they didn't have any bass.
Right, that's quad ESL 57s for you.
And also, they were ridiculously directional.
Yeah.
And in the olden days, they used to call it a window on the orchestra.
Yes.
But the window was about the size of a monocle.
Yes.
But if you could get it so that you angled them just so, and you could get your head... I mean, you had to put your ears in a 360-degree plane absolutely perfectly. Yeah. Then, oh my gosh, it really was a window on the orchestra.
Well, it was less of a window, it was less of a large bay window, more of a small porthole.
It really was. It really was. But when they sang, they were beautiful.
Yeah.
They were amazing. So the Mellows, I was really keen to hear them.
Yeah.
And because they're a hybrid, aren't they?
Yes.
So they've got some weird technology which I don't pretend to understand, which is trying to address both of those factors.
Absolutely. So they're basically, if you think of the things wrong with the quad electrostatics, the 57s and the 63s, and to a lesser extent, the later ones as well, then as you say, the quads are very directional and they don't have any bass. And I don't care what people say. 57s and 63s don't have low bass, and there's no amount of messing around that can get that. So the Mellow Acoustics FrontRo is a hybrid, and it has a combination of a bespoke Mellow Acoustics. Tim Mellow is the guy who runs the.
It's a great name.
It's a great name, and it sounds like some kind of chat show presenter, doesn't it?
Does, yes.
sorry, Tim.
Agony aunt.
But it's very cool. So it has a bespoke electrostatic driver, which we'll talk about in a moment, and a old school dynamic bass unit, basically. So it's kind of like the sort of Martin Logan approach, where it's got electrostatic panel or transducer, with a sort of thing at the bottom making a kind of boom noise.
Yes.
Yeah.
And something which I don't understand, which is an oscillating sphere concept.
Yes.
Which is trying to address basically that directionality which the quads have.
It sounds like a public service broadcasting album.
That's what they need to title their next album. That's most definitely. But they talk about it like radiating out, like if you throw a pebble into a pond and that sort of stuff. And they talk quite technically about various things, which again I don't pretend to understand too much. But it's designed to combat that. And look, when we listened to them, we were listening to them on the sofa and so on. It certainly wasn't a window on the orchestra.
Yeah.
There's a much wider.
They weren't on the sofa. We were on the sofa.
No, that's right. We were on the sofa. But there's a much wider porthole,
definitely,
than the quads.
Yeah.
Still not as big a sound, a window, if you like, as the as conventional box speakers.
Yeah, some
still
conventional
quite
speakers
directional for me.
Can do better. But no, I mean, I think they are way more user friendly as an electrostatic speaker than most of them. Firstly, they're quite small, aren't they? They're about 760 centimeters high, which is
tiny.
Yeah, relatively tiny. I mean,
Yes.
most modern floor standards are knocking on a meter high, aren't
Yes,
they? Certainly a sort of standard sized one. So it doesn't stand as tall in the room as your average, Acoustic Energy AE320 or something.
No, absolutely. And
yeah.
look, I mean, I'm a bit afraid to ask, what do you think of the design? It's quite radical.
Yeah, I mean, I think full marks for trying.
Yes,
I'm still not sure if I personally think it's the most beautiful thing in the world, but it's certainly interesting and it's functional as well.
Yeah.
So
it does look like a couple of road signs stacked on top of each other, but I do love the fact that that they're beautifully made, and where they've been connected, you can't see any wires or cables.
No.
Obviously, you've got to put your speaker cables in, and you've got to plug them into the mains.
Yep.
So you do have some cables coming out, but
Yep.
there's nothing internal, and it almost looks like they're two discrete units.
Yeah.
So I like the way they've done that. The jury's out a little bit on the design for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think they would work more. They would work better in a kind of swanky London apartment,
Yes.
riverside apartment.
Yeah.
Rather than the mess that is your or my lounge.
And I'm quite happy to sort of to bow down to that argument because we do tend to be surrounded by sort of black boxes which all look pretty sort of generic, don't they? But can I just come back to a point you were making earlier about the quads not having any bass? I remember having a conversation with them many years ago and addressing that, and they said, if you want bass, just kick a cardboard box in time with the music. But then they had this subwoofer, didn't they, with the 63s?
Yes.
They had this. You could buy the subwoofer with it, and I've got to say that's pretty much all it did. It was almost like kicking a box in time with the music. It was so detached, for me at least, from the rest of the speaker. So you had this lovely, elegant sound, very fast, very transient, gorgeous top end, gorgeous mid range, and then you just had this going on from the subwoofer.
Yeah.
Now, this isn't like that,
No.
at all. And one of the things, and I'm speaking for you, but I think one of the things we were both really impressed with was there wasn't that huge separation between bass mid and between treble mid and bass.
Yeah.
It integrated beautifully. It had a great crossover point.
It really did. I mean, many hybrid electrostatic and dynamic speakers are kind of buy one get one free.
Yes, that's a great expression.
There's your lovely electrostatic treble and mid range, and it's just so seamless and beautifully integrated. And then there's something going boof, boof down, from about 200 hertz. And that doesn't happen with this.
Not at all. No.
And
they've nailed it.
Yeah, they really have.
Yeah.
And that's really impressive because I've heard so many. I mean, Martin Logan is a great example. So nowadays they are very well integrated. But I remember reviewing Martin Logan speakers 25 years ago, and they would literally be, sort of. There's Kate Bush in a wonderfully ethereal expression, and they go, bleh, bleh, that's totally fixed now with those speakers. But it absolutely personified the problems you've got when you're mating those two kind of drivers to one another.
Yes.
And the reason is, firstly, the speed, the transient speed of an electrostatic is a transducer is much faster than a standard moving coil drive unit with a cone, which is much heavier. So they say that the electrostatic panel is the thickness of the material on the panel is about 1/6 of the width of a human hair.
Incredible.
So it's very, very thin. Some people call it cling film. It's not quite that,
No,
but it's
sure,
a kind of
sure.
tends to be a kind of mylar type material. I can't speak exactly for the front row, but it's a very light and thin material stretched over, obviously, but with a standard drive unit, you've got the sort of the cone, haven't you, which can be quite heavy,
Yes,
and the kind of mechanical side of it and so on, which is gives a much slower characteristic, I think.
and if you haven't heard electrostatics, then I would strongly recommend you do somehow, somewhere, because of that, because it's a very different sound than you get from a conventional speaker. And I don't think I know anybody who doesn't like the top end and the mid range of a decent pair of electrostatics.
Yeah.
And I like it on these. Yeah. I think that Tim's done a great job here.
Yeah.
And also I love the bass as well.
Yeah.
So I was really taken with them.
Yeah.
I thought they sounded fantastic.
Yeah.
They're quite expensive.
Yeah.
Aren't they? I've got a feeling they're about getting on for £10,000, aren't they?
So yeah, I mean, but they're not a cheap speaker, but they do an awful lot, I think, for the money, and you can spend a lot of money on all kinds of conventional floor standers, let's say,
Of course you can.
sort of B&W 803 D4s or whatever.
Yes.
And not get the sort of sound that you get from these. And I think the great thing about the front rows is that they are small, relatively physically small, albeit quite wide with the kind of wacky sort of frame design. But they make a very big sound. They'll take power, like many electrostatics can't. I've got some Quad 989s, and you put power into them, and suddenly the protection circuitry will switch off a panel.
Yes, I had that with the 57s as well.
So not great for kind of 70s disco parties.
No, sure. Sure.
But I mean, to me, many electrostatics, you listen to an electrostatic and they instantly tell you what conventional speakers are doing wrong, don't they?
They do.
So you don't hear the boo boo of the cabinet, or the kind of ringing nasal kind of sort of mid-range of the cabinet that you get.
Sure.
So that they tell you an awful lot of what the other, as it were, their rivals are doing wrong, their conventional rivals, but they still don't make a convincing case for themselves, because they can't go loud. They don't have bass that really works with that kind of music we like. And in some cases the treble isn't quite as extended as it can be. Then you've got the sort of the way that they kind of disperse into the room, which is an issue as well.
Yes.
So they're kind of like, here's what's wrong with all the stuff you're used to, but it's still not quite right.
Yes.
So sometimes they can have they're sort of quite frustrating, because they're so good in some ways. But the thing about the front row is they are very good all-rounders, aren't they?
Yes.
They're really well designed and capable, and you can put kind of punchy rock music like kind of REM's the one I love, and you have a gutsy solid bottom end, but it doesn't, as you say, it doesn't kind of interfere with the mid and treble. And it doesn't arrive at you half an hour later.
Yes, absolutely.
So it integrates really well, and it sort of projects wide. It gives you a big sound stage, doesn't it? And a nice kind of central acoustic. So a great speaker.
We spent a few minutes just getting them in the right place, didn't we? That was about all we really had to do. And it was interesting, because we a few tweaks. Nothing major, just the sort of directional bits and bobs here and there, and we got it absolutely nailed on. And I was so impressed with them. I was so impressed at how they sounded, and for me it was a great balance of all the things which electrostatics do well, and bringing in some of the things too which they don't normally quite do so well, and integrating them fantastically. So I think the front rows are great. And I think Tim Mellow's done a terrific job.
The only things I would say is that usual kind of caveat emptor, they're 84 dB sensitivity, so they are not a pair of JBL horn-loaded JBLs that will sort of smash your windows out with a 3-watt parallel single-ended valve amp. They need a bit of power.
Yeah.
They still ultimately they don't have. They're very good all-rounders, but they still won't kind of knock you off your sofa. They are not big JBLs or Klipsch type American style big monitor type things, are they?
No. In fact, they're very tiny, really, for what they are. Because I always associate electrostatics with being massive panel things.
Yeah.
You think of the Magnaplanes you used to get, which were just, oh my God, it's as tall as your roof.
Yeah.
They're nothing like that. They're diddy little things.
So
really.
They're very diddy, but they're more powerful than you'd think. Certainly, in terms of. In terms of the punch and the sort of grip that they bring, but they are not sort of smash you in the face kind of bit sort of head banging speakers. That's if you like Motorhead and Whitesnake and 9 Inch Nails, then maybe something else is in order. But,
sure. But you don't have to just listen to classical music to like these.
No,
they will play an awful lot of stuff.
That's
really
a great point actually, because I think certainly earlier quads really excel with classical, and then you put some sort of sort of really punchy kind of rock, and it's just a bit sort of flat, isn't it?
Yes,
it can be.
Yes,
but that was not the case with these.
No, not at all. And it would be interesting to spend a little bit more time with them and do some amp matching.
Yeah.
And seeing sort of what front ends work nicer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my best guess would be they're pretty. Unless you've got to have a decent amount of grunt, that would probably be the only caveat.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I think they'd probably be fairly system agnostic. I get the feeling they probably work with most decent amplifiers.
Absolutely.
And a good source.
I think they're more room friendly than any electrostatic I've heard.
Absolutely.
To date.
Yes. Yeah.
As long as you've got a reasonable amount of power, they're not too fussy about amps.
Sure.
So
have you still got them?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Can I borrow them?
No. So
I could try them with some of the amps we've got on trial at the moment.
I think they'll
It'd be interesting to try them with the Marantz.
Absolutely.
PM10.
The PM10.
Because that's a hefty old beast.
It is, and it's got enough power to drive them.
Drive a power station.
You could, yeah.
Yeah,
but
excellent.
No, they're I mean, I think they're very interesting loudspeaker from a new company, from someone with my apologies to Tim, who I hadn't heard of before he approached me with these to review. Very, very impressive kind of debut loudspeaker on the hi-fi scene, and much more practical and room friendly than many such crazy, wacky, zany speakers, I think.
Yes, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I think they certainly the aesthetics, I think, as you say, fit in better with certain places than others.
They're too posh for you, Mike.
They're too posh for me, but the sound isn't. I love the sound.
Yeah.
So fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's do a score. Let's do a hi-fi riffometer out of 10.
Yep. I'm going to give them a 9.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
All day long.
Yeah.
All day long. I think they're fantastic. And I'm very pleased to have heard them and hoping to listen to them a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Excellent. And on that note, thanks very much indeed for watching this episode of Mike and Dave's Hi-Fi Riff, and we will see you at the next one. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.